The story began in 2028 in a Los Angeles torn apart by riots. The city's water supply had just been privatized, and the streets erupted in chaos. Two brothers, Sam and Max, both professional criminals, decided to use the confusion to their advantage. Along with their partners, Roy and Tommy, they moved in to rob a bank. Then a problem came up. The bank employees had no access to the vault at all. So Sam came up with another idea. He noticed that because of the riots, wealthy clients were sending their own staff to hide valuables instead of trusting the bank itself. The brothers decided to rob those clients instead of the bank. During the robbery, Max pulled an expensive pen out of a man's pocket. The man warned him that stealing it would be a serious mistake. Max ignored him. To escape, the crew blew a hole through a wall to slip into a side alley. However, the police found them and opened fire. Tommy was killed in the shootout. Roy and Max were both badly wounded. Max was hit worst of all, and he only survived because Sam took most of the bullets meant for him, his bulletproof vest absorbing the impact. To get out of this mess, Sam called Hotel Artemis, a secret hospital that treated only criminals. A nurse ran the place. She had deep medical knowledge, but a phobia of open spaces had kept her inside the hotel for the past 20 years. After confirming rooms were free, the nurse looked for a moment at a photo of her dead son. Then she put on her headphones, turned on some music, and got the rooms ready. Two other guests were already staying there, each known only by the code name she had given them. One was Nice, an international assassin. The other was Billy, a rude arms dealer. The hotel ran on the newest healthcare technology, and the nurse could track every guest's location through her tablet. Strict rules applied inside. No killing another guest, no photos or videos, no weapons, and membership fees paid in advance. When the new arrivals showed up, the nurse cut the music and kept them behind a gate until they met every rule. Roy reluctantly gave up his gun. But when it came time to scan the wrist chip proving membership, only the two brothers passed. Roy's chip turned out to be fake. Denied entry, Roy lost his temper and lunged at Sam. The nurse had no choice but to call Everest, her personal assistant and head of security. Everest subdued Roy easily, injected him with a sedative, and carried him outside. The brothers were given separate code names and taken to a room for treatment. Before the procedure, Sam took the stolen pen from Max for safekeeping. Then the nurse used a robotic arm to begin operating on Max. Suddenly, the power cut out because of riot control measures. The nurse stayed calm, since the building had its own generator, and the lights came back on as soon as she gave the command. She could now use a 3D printer to build Max a new liver. Meanwhile, Everest left Roy under a bridge. The nurse called and asked him to check the generator on his way back. Distracted by the call, Everest didn't notice Roy jump him from behind, trying to choke him. Everest threw him off easily and warned him that if he ever mentioned the hotel to anyone, he would hunt him down. Back inside, the nurse checked on Nice and Billy's injuries. After she left, Nice called her client demanding more money, since she'd had to shoot herself just to get close enough to her target. The client agreed. In the operating room, the nurse told Sam that organs built by the 3D printer were toxic. Max's condition had turned critical, and he was only alive because of life support. Moving him anywhere would require the same tranquilizers used on baby elephants. While the nurse examined Sam's hand, he admitted, upset, that Max had once promised to quit crime, though he doubted his brother would ever change. Then the nurse stepped out and answered a call from an unknown number. The man on the line was rude, so she hung up immediately, since that too broke the rules. The man called again. The same thing happened. On the third call, she finally agreed to talk after hearing his name. Croby Franklin, son of Orion Franklin, known as the Wolf King, the crime lord who owned the hotel. The Wolf King had been injured and wanted someone to see him right away. Leaving the hotel to treat a patient elsewhere was against the rules, so the nurse refused. Croby reluctantly agreed to bring his father in instead. Outside, the riots kept getting worse. Drones and missiles were now being used. Everest believed they should evacuate the building. The nurse disagreed, insisting the hotel was still safe. Meanwhile, Nice walked into the break room and ran into Billy, who immediately started flirting with her. When she made it clear she wasn't interested, he got upset. Their argument was interrupted when Sam walked in for coffee. Sam and Nice greeted each other in a way that showed they already knew one another. Billy assumed they were a couple and that Sam was trying to protect his girlfriend. Both of them laughed at that. Sam smiled and said he didn't need to protect her, that she was the most dangerous person in the hotel. Then, half joking, he patted Billy's chest and stole his wallet before walking out. After Sam left, Nice broke a mug on the table and threw a shard at Billy with enough force that it landed 2 inches from his body. She told him that killing was against the rules here, and that rule was the only reason he was still alive. Fed up, Billy called for a helicopter to get himself out of the hotel. The nurse brought Everest to her room to show him footage from the security cameras outside, since she still refused to leave for the Wolf King. Meanwhile, Croby had begun sealing off certain doors so no one else could get in once his father arrived. Suddenly, an alarm went off, and a different image appeared on the screen. Officer Morgan Daniels stared straight into the camera and called the nurse by her real name, Jean Thomas, a name even Everest didn't know. The nurse recognized her and wanted to let her in. Everest refused, saying helping a cop would break the rules and destroy their client's trust. At that moment, the power cut out again, and Everest left to check the generator. Alone, the nurse drank some whiskey, grabbed her medical bag and her son's photo, and slipped out through a hidden passage. She had no idea Sam had seen her leave. Her agoraphobia made stepping outside extremely difficult. She put on headphones and played a set of therapy recordings Everest had once given her as a gift. Reaching Morgan, she showed her the photo of her son. Recognizing the boy, Morgan accepted the old connection between them. Just then, two teenagers ran past, chased by police officers who found the nurse standing over the injured Morgan. They didn't believe her claim that she lived nearby. Before they could question her further, Everest arrived and knocked out every officer in seconds. He carried Morgan back inside with the nurse. Kroby's men later found the unconscious officers and killed them. Meanwhile, Sam went through Billy's stolen wallet and found a hidden microchip tucked beneath a playing card. Nice walked in carrying the nurse's whiskey so the two of them could share a drink. Sam noticed the changes in her since their last meeting. New membership marks on her wrist and an eye implant that let her clients watch her kill her targets, who were always powerful people. Sam then showed her the pen Max had stolen, and Nice froze. She twisted it open, revealing 6 diamonds inside, each worth 170 crore rupees. The pen belonged to the Wolf King, a man notorious for killing anyone who stole from him. Nice urged Sam to leave immediately. He refused to go until his brother could walk again. After arguing over his decision, she kissed him and left, upset that he always put his brother above everything else. While carrying Morgan inside, Everest kept scolding the nurse for risking everything for a cop. She reminded him that she had broken the rules once before too, when she found him as a child and took him in. After confirming Billy had left the hallway, they brought Morgan to the nurse's room, and the nurse operated while trying and failing to keep her memories of her son at bay. Once the operation ended and Morgan regained consciousness, she asked the nurse why she had agreed to help her. The nurse answered that she'd helped because they were like family, and it had nothing to do with Morgan being a cop. Morgan then mentioned the nurse's son, reopening old wounds. The nurse made an excuse about preparing another room and left. She got the room ready while listening to music, but this time, once she finished, she sat down and cried, remembering the day her son died of a drug overdose. Meanwhile, Sam arranged for a car to take them away from the hotel. He went to check on Max, who was slowly regaining consciousness. Sam showed him the Wolf King's logo stamped on the pen and told him this would be the last job they ever did together. Max agreed, though his eyes kept drifting toward the narcotic injection the nurse had left on the table. At the same time, Sam inspected the hidden passage the nurse had used earlier. Up on the roof, Nice used a special device to spy on Kroby's conversation with his men. Billy, still waiting for his helicopter, ran into Nice and tried to recruit her. The moment he learned her target was the Wolf King himself, he knocked her out, since the Wolf King was about to arrive at the hotel. The nurse went to the gate to receive him but wouldn't open it right away, since most of the crowd outside was armed, a direct violation of the hotel's rules. Kroby objected, but the Wolf King told him to follow the rules and walked in alone. Before going with the nurse, the Wolf King gave his son his ring as a gift, thinking he might not survive. With the Wolf King's men now locked outside the gates, Everest used the opportunity to sneak Morgan out of the building, first making her swear never to reveal the hotel's existence. On the way out, they ran into Sam in the hallway. Noticing Morgan's boots, he immediately guessed she was a cop. He only remarked that they were treating police officers too, now, and let them pass without making a scene. Meanwhile, Nice opened her fake cigarette case, which was actually a bomb, and planted it on the generator. Inside, the nurse was treating the Wolf King. Under the effect of the drugs, his tongue slipped, and he mentioned a lie, along with the name of the nurse's dead son, a name he should never have known since she'd never told him. She called Everest on the walkie-talkie and spoke with Morgan, who tried to convince her never to blame herself for her son's death. After remembering old times, she hung up and went back to speak with the Wolf King, who was now losing consciousness from the extra drugs she had given him. His tongue completely loose, he finally confessed that her son hadn't died of an overdose. He'd stolen the Wolf King's car, so his men had killed him and thrown his body into the ocean. The police report had been faked afterward once the Wolf King paid off the cops. That same incident had brought the nurse to him, and out of guilt, he had given her a new job and a new life. Sam went to check on his brother again. He found that Max had injected himself with the nurse's narcotics, proving he was still an addict. Sam told him they needed to leave and loaded the stolen chip from Billy's wallet into the 3D printer to build a gun. Max refused to move, convinced he wouldn't survive anyway, and insisted that Sam save himself instead. Morgan made it out of the building safely. At that same moment, the nurse picked up a scalpel, intending to kill the Wolf King herself. Billy woke up, ready to finally catch his helicopter. Then the bomb went off, cutting all the power. The explosion caused the helicopter to leave without Billy, sending him into a rage. He decided he would kill Nice no matter what, and pulled a 3D printed gun out of his bag. Meanwhile, the nurse forgot about her revenge and rushed to check on Max, whose life support had already shut off. Taking advantage of the chaos, Nice slipped into the Wolf King's room, refused his offer of more money, and killed him, recording the entire act through her eye implant. The nurse tried everything to save Max, but nothing worked. When her tablet flagged the Wolf King's death and the tracker showed Nice had been with him, Sam put it together and blamed her for his brother's murder. He grabbed his gun and went after her. He found her in her room and confronted her for what she'd done. Nice swore she hadn't known Max was on life support. Believing she might be telling the truth, Sam started to lower his weapon. At that exact moment, Billy burst in and shot them both, then began bragging about how they had once threatened him and were now the ones on the ground. While Billy was distracted celebrating, Sam attacked him, shoved his face into the 3D printer, and switched it on. Elsewhere, Kroby realized the ring his father had given him was actually a bomb. He used it to blast a hole in the wall so he and his men could get through. The nurse found Sam and Nice, gathered up Nice's scalpels, and led them toward the hidden passage. On the way out, they ran into Everest, who chose to stay behind and hold off the Wolf King's men. He handed the nurse a set of keys and hugged her. As they reached the elevator, Nice shut the door behind them, telling Sam to remember what she had done for him. Franklin's men were already breaking through the wall toward the elevator, and she knew that if she didn't stop them, they would kill Sam, so she stayed to face them herself. Everest pulled out an axe and fought the entire mob alone downstairs. Nice used her stolen scalpels against the men pouring through the breach in the wall. Both of them fought well at first, but the numbers eventually overwhelmed them. Even so, they bought the nurse enough time to treat Sam's wounds and reach an old back exit that hadn't been used in years. Unfortunately, Kroby was already waiting there, looking for revenge for his father's death. Sam showed him the diamonds and offered a deal. He would hand over the pen, since each of the 6 diamonds inside was worth 170 crore, and having his father's pen would let Kroby claim the Wolf King's throne for himself. Kroby agreed, but only if Sam left alone, without the nurse. Sam pretended to accept, and as he got close enough to hand over the pen, he attacked Kroby instead. A fight broke out between them. Already injured, Sam started losing, and Kroby shoved him to the ground. At that moment, the nurse came up from behind and injected Kroby with the same elephant tranquilizer she'd used on the Wolf King earlier, finishing him off. After grabbing the pen again, Sam helped the nurse push through her fear so they could get outside, where the riots were still raging. Together, they found the car Sam had called earlier. But the nurse turned down his offer to come with him, since she wanted to stay behind and keep helping injured people, the same thing she'd done her whole life, and the only thing that gave her any peace. For the first time in his life, Sam had no plan of his own. So after the nurse told him about a hotel in Las Vegas that could take him in, he got in the car and drove off alone. The nurse walked back toward the hotel and saw its sign light up again, meaning someone had restarted the generator. She put her headphones back on, turned on her music, and walked toward the riots, ready to help. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this.